Cleveland. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Get him. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Go. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Get him. Get him. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire.
Yo. This your boy Thorough, and this is the My Dogs podcast, where our opinions are just our opinions. I got a good one today. I got my co-host, Mr. Deke, in the building. How you feeling, Deke? What you got going on?
Man, ain't nothing to it but to do it, man. Just living and being blessed and ready to get into it with these professional gentlemen right here who got to let us know what's going on in the hood when it comes to sports, that is.
I got Dr. Jesse Morse in the building. This guy right here, see that name, Jesse Morse? Follow him on TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook. This man breaks down all, not just the Cleveland, all the sports injuries, and that's where I found him. This man, he got great insight. I can't wait to get into it because Foe is my guy, and I need to know about Four. I need to know, is Four coming back to Cleveland, or I'm going to have to find me a new QB? Jesse, Doctor, what you got going on today? What's going on?
We're doing good. Everything is good. We transition out of NFL. Time to take a deep breath, and all the guys start coming in for their injury stuff. So it's about to start getting busy for me.
Okay. Then we got Guardian Caps. Guardian Caps is taking over the NFL and hockey and all of that. They are mandating more players every year to wear Guardian Caps during practice. They just let them start wearing it during the NFL, during games. And we got Mr. Eric, the regional sales manager for Guardian Sports, on the line. We getting into this health today. What's going on, E?
How's it going? Yeah, I'm really excited about this. The NFL has done a good job of getting guys in Guardian Caps, and there's 15 guys that wore them in games this year, one of them being JOK for the Browns. So, I mean, that was exciting time for me to see one of our Browns guys in a Guardian Cap.
Okay, Doc. I'm gonna let y'all know about this guy. I already told y'all he's the legit guy. And if y'all don't believe me, Dr. Morse, he was on the medical staff for the Philadelphia Phillies. He was on the medical staff for the Toronto Blue Jays. He was on the medical staff for the Miami Marlins. And this man was a ringside doctor for MMA. I don't know how he get up that close with them punches and all that stuff, but this man knows his stuff. Oh man, folks. First of all, if y'all don't know who he is, I'm gonna let y'all know right now, real quick, of who he is and what he does.
Hey guys, Dr. Morse, injury experts. So we just heard that Deshaun Watson had a setback in his recovery from his Achilles reconstruction. The problem with Achilles is that you cannot push the rehab too quickly, because what happens is the tendon can get to what we call lax. So there has to be some tension on the tendon in order for it to fire. Now, a lot of people try to push it too quickly, and what happens is they start removing some of the inserts that they put underneath the Achilles when you're inside of the boot. And if you remove them too quickly and you push it too quickly, you can extend that Achilles tendon too much so that it becomes lax. So when you try to fire your calf, it no longer raises your foot. It kind of just barely picks it up, if at all. The other thing that can happen as a setback is you can have an infection in and around where the Achilles tendon was basically sewn together. I'm not sure if he had a pars or a bridge technique or whatever he had, but there are multiple different ways that you can have a setback with an Achilles. Unfortunately, I have several patients personally that were NFL players that suffered an Achilles tear that never made it back to the field because they were not able to get the tension back and just to get to that level of explosiveness to be able to get back onto the field. Now, we don't know the specifics, but this very well could compromise his 2025 season, and obviously we'll go from there, but significant news for Deshaun Watson, as he possibly could need a second Achilles reconstruction surgery to address this setback that he had with the first. We don't have any specifics, but we'll give you more information here at the Injury Experts when it becomes available.
Okay, dog. Okay, dog. See, y'all see he's thorough with it. He's thorough with it. My name is Thorough, but he's thorough with it. Oh man. But Doc. Okay, now you worked on the medical staff with these teams. I got two questions before we get into this Achilles. First, I'm gonna go with Deshaun Watson's brim or something like that he had last year.
He had a couple different shoulder injuries, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So he had the shoulder injury, and that the time that he was cleared to play, he was medically cleared to play, but then he went out in practice and he said that he didn't feel good. Do you know anything about like I said, being on the medical staffs when somebody is cleared to play? Can you tell the My Dogs podcast and these Cleveland Browns fans that want to say that Deshaun Watson is weak, he was medically cleared to play, he should have been able to play? What does it really mean when somebody is medically cleared to play, if you know? So
in this specific situation, even though it wasn't this year, I still remember it pretty vividly because it was very unique. He suffered an injury, probably a grade 2 partial tear of the subscapularis. Now, this is the tendon that basically runs right here, and it's for reaching across your body. But it's also the main tendon responsible for throwing. But football, namely, not much for baseball. So the issue with this tendon is it goes in and attaches to the front of the shoulder blade. So it's kind of like a coil. So it kind of goes in like that. So what happened is, think of it as a 1 inch wide, and he partially tore it. So now you have half of it attached and half of it not attached. So essentially what happened was, yes, it may have been feeling better, but that doesn't mean he can throw the ball 20, 30 times because the shoulder wasn't able to recoil with the velocity, and then people hitting him and him falling on it, and then do it again, and then do it again, and do it again. So structurally it may have looked better, but that doesn't mean his shoulder was physically ready to do what you're asking it to do. If it was his non-throwing shoulder, okay, not a big deal. But you're asking the injured shoulder to repeatedly, it's not like, hey, make one throw and you're good. We're asking you to make 20, 30 throws in tight windows, over defenders, around people, like that becomes a lot more. And yeah, it may be okay here, but maybe it hurts here or here. And rarely is everything perfectly square. A lot of the times you see these guys throwing all these crazy angles. So eventually what ended up happening was he didn't re-injure that. He ended up fracturing the base of where it attaches, where the ball basically attaches to the socket. So he ended up fracturing that, which is super rare and not a common injury at all. So it wasn't that he didn't want to play, is that he wasn't effective, and he didn't have the strength or the fatigue factor kind of set in, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's where I just wanted you to clear it up for these Browns fans. I love the Browns hat that you got in the back, the helmet. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh man, you got a little bit of I see the Raiders too. Oh, turn your chair. Hide that one.
That's a Jerry Rice, Tim Brown signed Raiders helmet.
Okay. One, yeah. You need
that's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay, you can keep that one. But yeah, it just like as a Browns fan, you hear all this stuff, and everybody really don't like Deshaun, so they come up with all these excuses, telling them, "Oh, he was medically cleared." That doesn't mean that he's not hurt. That's because he's medically cleared. I mean, he's still hurt, and he got to take. You said everything, but he still got to take hits too.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the issue is, yeah, you can get him a Toradol shot or something, but it's, remember, he's probably trying to throw during the week too. So it's like, you can't give him one every day. His kidneys can't handle that. So you have to, save your bullets. And unfortunately his bullets weren't ready yet.
Yeah.
Eventually he came back. I mean, he came back too early. He really wasn't ready for that first game. If I remember correctly, he did not look good. And then eventually he came back, looked pretty good. And then unfortunately he suffered that fracture, was it indirectly secondary to that first injury. Was that maybe probably because neither of them are traditional injuries at all. But it is what it is. That didn't really have any significant correlation where it happened this year. It was just an unfortunate ending to back-to-back years.
Yes. Okay. Now I just wanted to clear that up for these Browns fans that I got to defend for all the time, and they wanted to call him weak. He was soft, and they act like they break a fingernail and call off work. But this man got a torn shoulder and everything, but they want him to go out there and get beat up by 300-pound linemen and all that stuff. I just wanted to clear that up for myself. Now I got another personal one. Okay, Deshaun Watson's first Achilles tear. That happened. Forgot that happened October. I forgot the date. October 29th, I think it was. When his first tear, when do you think that because Deke didn't think he thought he was coming back in the middle of the season. I said his first one, after the first surgery, he will be back by July. Do you think I was tripping, or because I think he came back in that same time, and Aaron Rodgers like double his age?
So I'll give you a little insight here. So Achilles tears in general are not that common, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
ACLs are more common. Achilles tears in quarterbacks before last year were really rare. How rare? An N of 2 that I can tell. Some guy named Dan Marino and Vinny Testaverde, as far as I remember. Those are the only two. So and then it went like 20-something years before it happened again. That's how rare they are. So the fact that both Cousins and Aaron Rodgers did it last year is just an anomaly. It's a fluke thing. Is there a combination of age, of the fields, of probably a lot of things? Yes. Maybe COVID, maybe the vaccine. You can potentially put a lot of different variables in there. And I would say, yes, that's a possibility. The difference is that we usually see them in the early 20s or 50s in regular people. So that you have like J.K. Dobbins and like early 20s. That's much more common age. And almost always men. Rare is women. Super rare. So when you have this injury as a professional athlete, this is a life-changing event for regular people. Never mind for an athlete. Just for regular people. the amount of coil that Achilles requires, it's basically spun like this. So it's not straight, it's actually spun. And it's the calf coming down, turning to the Achilles, and then eventually attaching to the back of the heel. Now, the problem with the Achilles is that it has to be under tension. If it's not under tension, if it's not taut, then it can't pick up the toes and you can't walk. You can't run, you can't do anything. So what happens is, it's not a little model. So what happens is right around this area, I don't have the Achilles attached here, but right around this area, there is a beautiful blood supply that stops about here, and there's a blood supply that stops about here. And there's about a 1 to 2 inch gap right in the middle of the Achilles tendon. That's what we call a watershed area, meaning it doesn't have a good blood supply. And this is where it starts to get thick to the point where it starts to tear, and then eventually it becomes 2 pieces. That's what happened on that immediate injury. And you saw him go down, you saw him go in a cart, and then unfortunately, we've seen it enough to say, hey, yeah, that's a classic Achilles. They just needed a quote-unquote MRI to confirm it, and then you have surgery. Now, traditional protocol is 9 to 12 months, and even then, you're not sure how they're going to do. And it really is position-specific. Quarterbacks traditionally didn't get these, so we really didn't have a whole lot of data. Running backs sucked. They did the worst. We saw a little bit of change with Cam Akers this year and J.K. Dobbins, so we're starting to see a little bit of positive movement. But traditionally, they do not do well. This requires repetitive tensile strength, repetitive kind of almost like an elastic band, and it's very hard to get that back after the surgery, regardless of how good the surgery is, regardless of the type of surgery. One of your favorite OGs from the Browns organization, Olivier Vernon, had this injury, if you remember, and he never made it back. And he never made. I know Ovi, and he's a good dude. And unfortunately, that is, but think about how big he is and what he was trying to do. Push off against guys similar his size, trying to run around and get to the quarterback, or trying not to be blocked, basically. Deshaun is basically trying to stabilize and push off. The difference between Aaron Rodgers in terms of semantics and Kirk Cousins is which leg it affected. Aaron Rodgers, it affected his plant leg, his front leg. Whereas Kirk Cousins affected his post leg, his push off leg. Why is that? And they're both righties. Why is that a big deal? Well, Rodgers doesn't really have a whole lot of force going through that front leg. All the force is generated through that rear leg and going through his hips and then going through his shoulder. So that Achilles can translate that energy. Whereas Rodgers, it doesn't really have to, because he basically just has to be able to stabilize the front leg to kind of tell him where he wants to go. That's why you saw Kirk Cousins struggle so much this year, because he didn't have the velocity to fit it in those little narrow windows, because he couldn't generate the force from that Achilles. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, even though he's 4 or 5 years older, looked pretty good. And if you look at the stats between Rodgers and Mahomes, you can't tell who had what. They're almost identical. You believe, if you see the stats, you believe it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, he has 5 years on him, and neither were really much runners in their late in their career, and then so it didn't really change that. But it did play a role. So to say when would Deshaun come back, it would have been week 1, 2025. Coming back in 2024 is unrealistic. And even Rodgers trying to do it last year, in my opinion, maybe if everything went perfect. But he also did it on week 1. He also threw the kitchen sink at it. He's a little bit of a freak in terms of the stuff he's willing to do. And again, it was front leg. So and even then, it was a little crazy.
Okay.
But when he had the setback, and we'll talk about that in a sec.
Yes.
That is the problem. That is a huge problem.
Let's get into it.
And here's where I'm at with it. So I know of the doc that did it. I don't know him personally. I know many people that know him. He's a very famous foot and ankle surgeon named Dr. Anderson. He's in Charlotte area, and he pretty much only does pros at this point in his career. He's pretty much retired for regular people, from my understanding. And he's been doing these for many, many years. Many people have gone to him, so he's not, he's not new, any sense of the term. But with that being said, I don't know if it was his technique or whatever, but I've heard multiple other people who have had surgery by Dr. Anderson have had issues. So I don't know, if this is if it's fluky. I also, we saw Deshaun, I'll call it, dancing or whatever he was doing on TikTok or whatever, wherever the platform was, and he wasn't wearing his boot.
Wait,
Doc, I gotta ask you about that. I gotta put that.
Go ahead. No. Isn't that the same doctor that Aaron Rodgers had though? He went because he liked it the way that Aaron Rodgers came back.
I think so. There's two. So I think Trash did Rodgers. Trash is the one for the Rams. He's the Rams doc. That's who Dobbins did. Trash, that's who Cam Akers did. So most Trash is a really high. He's not I don't believe he's a foot and ankle. I believe he's a sports, but they're good at what they do. So he's very good. But when you tear or re-tear, which is a very, very low rate, especially that quickly, you're trying to figure out why. Because this is not common. Okay? My suspicion is he did a PARS, which is a type of procedure, and he didn't do a speed bridge. I don't know this for certain. I don't think it ever came out. Mm-hmm. The difference is PARS is a little bit the classic traditional way. Speed bridge is the new kind of a little bit crazier way. Before Akers did it and came back super, super fast the first time, no one thought it was a big deal. It was like, yeah, it was just a different theory, a different technique, and it wasn't a big deal. Then they said, wow, like he came back really fast. Maybe that's what they should do. And basically they added another level of suture to it. So it's like another reinforced layer. Now, I don't know what Deshaun had the first time or had as the initial surgery, whether it was a PARS or whether it was a speed bridge. But traditionally what happens is you get put in a boot and then they raise your heel in the boot with these little pads. Because what they want to do is they want to shorten the Achilles until it starts to heal. And then they'll gradually pull out the extra plate so that eventually it's a normal length. And then you can come out of the boot. So the question is, did he come out of the boot too soon? And the Achilles was not ready to be stressed. I don't know. I live in Miami. I heard it happened in Miami. This is a crazy city.
The video that you've seen, he wasn't really, he was moving generally like an old man. So it wasn't like he was doing something crazy.
Yeah. But that's what he put on film. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So now the question was, did he have a suture that didn't tighten up, that was leading to a little bit of weakness? Did he have an infection in it? I don't know. I'm just giving you different possibilities. Did something not take to the point where he retore it? I don't know. I think we ended up eventually finding out, yes, he ended up re-tearing it to the point where he had to have another surgery. So if that is true.
But I got another thing for you, because like I said, I'm rolling with Ford. Might have to put my Ford hat on. Now, when everybody was talking about he needed a boot and this and that and all that stuff, could he had a ankle brace on and put a shoe on top of that? Would that have helped, or you really need?
So it depends on how far. I know roughly how far out he was. Some people, they may be okay at that stage, and some people are not ready. So everybody's a little different. It really depends on what his physical therapist told him, to be honest with you, because the PT at that stage is really running the show. You're not going to see the doc weekly or whatever, So, and in general, that's the question, is that what happened here? Because this re-injury, and you should be sitting down for this, is not only going to probably require a second surgery. I don't know if I've seen that confirmed, but my guess is it will. But this will probably knock him out for likely all of 25. And I would not be surprised if he retires.
Ooh.
Woo.
Wait. Okay, go ahead,
dog.
D. Go ahead, D.
Hold
Go
on,
ahead,
let
D.
me. I gotta
Go
get
ahead,
this
D.
out, man. We got so based on that, and don't get me wrong, nobody knows these contracts like that. Doc, do you think that something like that, even with the video out, and it's been so many videos saying that they could possibly void his contract based on that? Can you elaborate on
Get
that?
him, dog.
I'm not. I don't do any of the financial stuff in that regard. But from my
Correct.
understanding, he's going to get his money. I think
Correct.
this is more of a Browns. Can we clear this to potentially move on?
Well,
And
no,
in
but
that
I
regard, I think
heard,
it might be possible.
but I heard like what you just said. If he's going for the whole 2025 season, they can recoup some money if he's going for the whole season. But if he
And I
comes
think
back,
there was a rework in that contract, and I think he probably played along because he's like, "You're going to get your money, but just help us out by basically saying, and it's not realistic for him. Hell, in my opinion, he looked awful even when he was in the game, healthy, right? I
Yes.
mean, Gunsling and Jameis looked way better.
Yeah.
A DTR, maybe not, but in general, he didn't look very good when he was healthy. Now you're asking him to come back from an Achilles. He wouldn't even be on the roster if it wasn't for this crazy contract, in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
I mean,
What
I'm not
does that
biased.
mean?
I'm just, I'm just calling it like I see it because if you look at the statistics and strip the names, you're like these two players should not be on rosters. And one of them was Watson. He was a beast early in his career. He was ridiculous. But you have to remember that he had an ACL tear in college. He came back and he had an ACL tear on the other side in his first year in the NFL. So he's already had a crazy injury history before any of this ever happened, and before all the drama and the headaches and everything. So, and he's not young per se, he's not old per se, right? We see Rodgers is a freaking 40.
Yes.
But the thing that I have concerns about, and I'm going to loop one more thing in that you probably don't know, is that I don't think he's no longer financially has that financial itch to push it. He's not hungry anymore.
We're talking
Right?
about Watson, right?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
I mean, I don't know personally. I'm saying mentally, I like he's signed for what, 200, whatever it is. Like as long as he doesn't, even if he just puts away 50% of it and literally lives off the interest, as long as he's not crazy, he should be able to do whatever he wants. Right? And like comfortable. So he shouldn't, like in my opinion, you're not going to have much of the itch to try to get back when everything you have is set and guaranteed.
Yes.
If you're like, hey, you don't have any more money coming, all right, that's a different story. That's why you saw J.K. Dobbins push so hard this year. He's on a free agent contract and he only made like 20 or 50K bonus. Like he didn't make anything this year, in terms of guaranteed. So when you have someone that's making that little compared to someone who's got 200 or whatever it is guaranteed, your motivation is different, and he's already hated by many per se. I'm going to add one more wrinkle that you may or may not know. So a little birdie told me.
I like
that
birdies.
Based on the different things that we've heard, some of the top experts, physical therapists, sports guys, speed guys, all the different nooks and crannies of training don't want to work with him. Because it's a slap in the face to them if he doesn't do what the PT or whoever's training with him. If he doesn't come back, or if he looks awful when he comes back, that's a reflection of them, and he doesn't want to deal with the headache of him. So it's like, you know what? I don't. So why is that important? There's only so many high level PTs, depending on where you want to train. I live in Miami. I'd say about 30 to 40% of the high level PTs that do NFL guys are all down here. I know them all because they all send people to me. So
wow, never thought about that.
Yeah, so now you have less access. Yes, you have all the money in the world, but it's not about money to them. It's about, hey, my name is on you, and if you don't represent me, then I'm not going to get new people. That's a reflection of my work, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing to think about. That it will be interesting to see how it comes, how it plays out.
I think my man Eric from Guardian Cap, he had some questions about. He was wondering what you was going. I don't know if it was about Deshaun Watson. Did you have anything for the doc before? Because I can rumble on. You got anything to ask the doc or?
Deshaun Watson was my main one that I was.
Okay, that's
I was
what you
kind of
wanted to
curious
know
about.
about.
Yeah.
Go ahead, E. Get him, E.
I wasn't sure if you had any input on JOK and his injury that he had this year, but
Remind me what it was.
his ended up being
after the season ended, the traditional season ended. My mind shifted from sports to not as much sports and more medicine. So I'm not up to date on money of the current, the injuries that ended people's seasons. I predominantly focus on offensive players.
his was spinal, so it was
Yeah,
a
it was like
neck
his neck or
injury.
something.
Yeah,
Oh,
They're trying to say he
I
might be
do.
done.
I don't know if we ever heard specifics.
and I
So
don't remember
it's-
hearing exactly
Yeah,
what
and
it
a lot of
was.
the
So I
times they
wasn't
don't
sure.
give information about that,
Yeah.
and I didn't see. It's tricky. Sometimes it's if it requires a fusion, then it depends on how many levels. If it's a multi-level fusion, that's what ended Chris Carson's career, if you remember him.
Mhm.
So whereas someone like Peyton I think had a single level, he probably eventually had a couple levels, but different position, different, you know, different level of effort in terms of what you're doing with your body and your head and neck. And I don't know if there's any risk to the court. So I can't give you specifics, unfortunately. Someone's asking about Chubb.
No, they've been wanting to know about Chubb.
I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming he suffered a Jones fracture. I haven't seen any specifics, but which is not it's a big deal for the season because it ended up, but it's not a big deal in the long run. That's what Derrick Henry had a couple of years ago, if you remember that. And in general, Jones fractures, which is this bone, the pinky, the base of the pinky, it doesn't have a good blood supply. You roll your ankle out, you catch the bone underneath it, it fractures. You need to put a screw in it or a plate. Derrick Henry had a plate. And then this is what ended up ending Greg Olson's career. He ended up fracturing it again, and that was it. He couldn't come back. If Julio Jones had one of these, so there's a bunch of guys that had these. They're annoying, they're frustrating, but most guys can come back. I expected him to struggle this year, given the severity of his knee injury, and he did. Unfortunately, he just did not look good at all. And then so given his knee injury in college, which is very similar to what he did in the NFL, by the grace of God, he didn't tear his ACL in college, but he had multiple ligaments reconstructed, likely. The fact that he retore those, that gives you an idea of the amount of force it took to tear everything. I mean, if you remember that video, it was freaking insane.
Yeah.
Both of them were, the old one and the new one. But with that being said, I expected him to struggle. Almost every running back has struggled in their first year back from ACL. Adrian Peterson was a fluke. Brees Hall was more just a touch, in terms of volume. He got crazy targets, but in terms of effectiveness, he wasn't super, a beast. And even so, he's several years younger, a lot less mileage on him. So, maybe he can make it back this year.
Injury, because with the knee, they said it takes about a year and a half to 2. With him messing up his ankle or whatever that he hurt, does that hurt that timeline or do it help the timeline?
No. I don't think it. I mean, it's more of a trust issue with the knee. It's a trust issue. It's a trust issue with the knee. You usually the first year back, you can see the quad on the reconstructed side being smaller, and that's because there's instability. And once the knee is stable, then the quad will start growing, and then you can't tell which side it was on without looking at the scar. But if it's the same side, maybe it sets him back a little bit. But in terms of effectiveness, I don't think it's going to do a whole lot unless he accidentally changes his gait, meaning how he walks and how he runs. Because of the foot, then obviously that may throw a little bit of a wrinkle in it.
Okay.
So Doc, I got a question. It's crazy. Doc, because we got Guardian Caps on here. Doc, I want your opinion so that you can get the interaction. How do you feel about the Guardian Caps right now? Because in the NFL, because this is the man right here. Eric is the man. So how do you feel about the overall protection of the Guardian Cap and what it's doing for the NFL right now?
So overall, the new helmets, the viscous, or there's a couple different brands, a couple different varieties. They're very good, right? This isn't my specific niche. The problem with the game is it's just a vicious game, right? And everybody wants to be cleared and come back. Christian Benford the other day, you can talk about that. I used to treat a lot of concussions. I don't treat them anymore. They're a headache, literally. And they're just, it's awful. But in general, like, can they help? I don't know what the data shows. It's probably okay. I mean, I don't think they're going to hurt. It's just the nature of the game. These guys are friggin' freaks. Like, I've seen guys in my office that are 6'6", 350, and they can freaking run them. Like, that's not normal. So you have people literally running into like that. I don't care how many layers you're putting on there. Like, it don't matter. And then you have what we call the coop contra coop. So it's like kind of this whiplash effect in the head. So in general, it has a tendency to, yes, you can add another layer and maybe you reduce them by 10, 20% or whatever, but most of the protection should be posterior.
I got to step up for Guardian Cap. I got you, E. Guardian Cap has reported that they are very effective, and they reduced concussions by 52% in the NFL.
Eric, back that up, E. Back it up, E.
So yeah, that number. Let's talk about that. That was from when the NFL started mandating them in the preseason in specific position groups. And if you listen to it, there's a podcast or an NFL Presents where Dr. Alan Sills talks about why they initially mandated the Guardian Cap, and it was more for subconcussive blows than it was for concussions. It was the daily impact, and they're looking at the long-term health, head health of their athletes, and that was their main focus. And what they found then was, after that mandate, they looked back at the data and they said, hey, wait a minute, during that time frame in those position groups, they saw a 52% reduction from the previous year. So it doesn't necessarily, the Guardian Cap itself doesn't reduce the risk of concussions by 52%. That's kind of a confusing part for some, even for some customers. But because concussions, every head injury is a little bit different. Every person's a little bit different. So there is no one device that's going to eliminate concussions. The goal is to reduce the amount of force the head takes, and then in turn, hopefully it can have a positive impact on the brain and in the long-term health.
Okay. I got a question for both of y'all. Okay, Doc, I got a question for you on Denzel Ward and Tua. If you were their doctor, because Denzel Ward played 6 years and he has 6 concussions. So he's been concussed 6 times. And Tua, we've seen how he gets when he gets hit. If you was his doctor, what would you advise him then for Eric with the Guardian Caps? Can quarterbacks wear them? And if you were the rep talking to Denzel Ward and Tua, what would you say to them to get them to wear it, to let them know that your product worked? Either one of y'all can go first, whatever.
So I'll start.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Tua, I tried to get him into the office after his most recent one, and I was, let's just say, unsuccessful.
Wait a minute, you Tua's doctor?
No, I'm not, but I tried to. I mean,
okay.
I'm 20 minutes from the stadium.
All right.
And I know people that know him. But in general, I knew he was going to come back only because, from a head perspective, only because of how much money he was owed and how his legacy he was going to be affected. From a brain perspective, I get it. I get it. I get he should have shut it down from a health perspective. But from a financial and a legacy perspective, I get why he didn't want to shut it down. Right. So it's an interesting slippery slope. You have some guys who are what we call genetically predisposed to having concussions, meaning that their brainstem, it's called Arnold-Chiari malformation. It means their brainstem sits a little lower in their head, in the back of their head, so it's easier for them to have a concussion. It's not, I don't think it's a big deal, but it's enough. And then if you look at concussions, we no longer grade them per se, but they do have a tendency to stack, meaning some people, they suffer one and it's a really mild one per se, and then they get another one, and instead of taking a week to clear, maybe they take 2. Or maybe they get lucky and then it's still another mild one and they only take a week to clear.
Tua's was a little bit different because he's having that fencing response where you've seen him kind of do that funky thing. So that's just how his personal brain responds. That was more of a imprint on the media. If he didn't do that response and he wasn't a quarterback, he probably wouldn't even need to go to the IR. That was more, I think, in my opinion, the NFL saying, hey, we can't let you go back. It's too big of a risk for our name, in my opinion. Now, I think I love the subconcussive blows he was talking about, because there's another theory or mindset that a lot of the linemen, when they, even though they're close and they kind of run into each other repetitively, you can have these subconcussive blows that end up causing a concussion, but it's not a super crazy concussion where they're, look like they're drunk or end up passing out or something like that. That may be where the Guardian helmets can be a little bit more effective, because maybe those subconcussive blows have a significantly less impact. It's hard to tell these guys no. You just say, hey, as of this time, you're cleared to return, if they clear all the protocols and everything. For them, it's more so a financial and in my opinion, and it's in a family decision than it is a, hey, are they allowed to and once they're medically cleared, technically they're allowed to return. And whether or not they return is kind of up to them. And there's a lot of pressure. They never make as much money as after the NFL as they do on the field. Like, it's just not happening to 99% of the people. So that's, and these guys have very expensive lifestyles, and then all of a sudden you turn off that money tree, and then all of a sudden, like, oh boy. Like,
when I listened to Denzel Ward's one of his, because they talked about him and his concussions, and you can let me know, because he was saying after you concuss, maybe within the next week or two, you're very acceptable for catching another one. Or something like that.
The data shows, I just looked this up the other day. The data shows 6 days to 6 weeks after is the highest risk for re-injury.
6 weeks.
Up to 6 weeks. It used to be I don't know if there's a specific number. For whatever reason, the number sticking in my head is 700% increase. But I don't know if there's a whole lot of data. Maybe Eric could speak to that. But and then there's something called second impact syndrome, which is a separate freaking monster. And that basically means that if you come back too quickly from the first concussion and you haven't cleared all your symptoms, if you suffer a new concussion, which is why they don't allow them to return too quickly, you can actually swell the brainstem and you can die, which is obviously super. It's rare, but it obviously can happen. So that's part of the reason why they're so strict about symptoms and about protocols and about allowing them to return. Because as I tell my patients, and then whenever I do videos on them, you can replace your knee, but you can't replace your brain. Like, that's it. That's all you have. So it's like, I get it. You want to come back and play in this game and get this check and whatever it is, but if your brain's not ready and you get hit again, which you will, is it your last thing? I still remember the Shazier injury, like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And Eric, before you go, this is a great comment, because what Pete is saying is after they have a concussion, they should be mandated to wear your great product there. Go ahead.
So, I mean, a few guys in the NFL did kind of follow that protocol. I don't know if it was an organization or a personal choice, whether it was, with the Jaguars. I know the Packers had a guy, the Dolphins had a guy that wore one after head injuries. But, and if you go back to the question about like Tua or Denzel Ward, the first thing that Dr. Morse brought up was, if I was going to make a recommendation to those guys, and obviously everybody can make their own decisions, but the first thing would be to look at the helmets that are out, that, different helmet manufacturers have made the best helmets that have ever existed in the game of football. So I would look towards those. Financially, I think they're a little pricey for everybody, but for an NFL player, that's not a concern. So I would put my head in one of those first. And then the second thing, I said it once, but there is no device that's going to completely eliminate the risk of concussions. So any additional assistance in reducing the force that gets to your brain, because again, like Doc mentioned, that you only have one brain. You're not replacing that thing after you're done. So I look back to the tight end from the Colts, Kylan Granson. One of the things that he mentioned was any reduction in force that he can get, he's going to take advantage of, because he knows that he has a life after football, and the goal for him is to have the healthiest, longest life that he can have. And so for those guys, it's not the most attractive thing. We have come up with customizable options. And when you watch the guys in the NFL that wore them this year, it looks more like a helmet. Like I got my Ohio State cover here. All right. This is over this is over a black Guardian cap, but go Bucks. So they won a national championship there. So it looks like an Ohio State helmet. It's not perfect. It's not exactly what you would see on a Saturday afternoon with Ohio State, but it definitely looks better. And so as you watch some of those NFL games, it wasn't maybe as easy to tell some of those guys were wearing a Guardian cap at first, but if you look close enough, their helmet looks a little bit bigger because it has an extra layer of padding. So I don't know if it's appearance that Denzel and Tua don't like about it, but quarterbacks can wear them. It's optional. Quarterbacks, kickers, and punters weren't mandated in practice, and obviously it's optional for every player in games, whether they wanted to wear them or not. So that would be my suggestion. Again,
Denzel said he's not wearing it. He said he don't care what they say, but Denzel. Okay, now about these Guardian caps. Okay,
he need to wear it.
Yes, he do. Okay,
but some people feel it's that look good, play good kind of thing. So if you don't feel like you look good,
what's the padding and what's the other, like the little headband back there? Talk about the headband and what's the padding that's on the helmets that's supposed to make it safer. Why do the Guardian caps make NFL players much safer?
So the padding, it's a closed cell foam that's covered in like a spandex. And so the thing that people look at a Guardian cap is they say, oh, there's extra padding, so that's going to add a little extra layer of protection. But the other thing that a Guardian cap allows, because the Guardian cap is not directly attached to the helmet, now it's attached with some Velcro straps, and then on the back it's attached as well. But because it's a separate item from the helmet, it allows for some rotational energy, and so it can displace some of the energy during contact rather than it taking it in one direct spot. That's one of the biggest things that allows the Guardian cap to kind of reduce some of the forces that get to the brain. The other thing that you were looking at was we have a Guardian Zenith Loop, and this is a flag football or non-helmet head protector. And if you look at like the Virginia Tech ratings for flag football head covers, this is one of the top rated, most cost-effective options for flag football players. And so this would be for non-helmet sports, and it could be anywhere from flag football 7-on-7 to basketball to volleyball to, I know there's some tumbling, like gymnastics and stuff, just at least during practice, not necessarily during competition. But Zenith did some initial studies, and what they found was that especially in flag football, a majority of the incidental head-to-head contacts was within this region. They didn't find that there was any necessary contacts that needed the top covered. So that's kind of how they came up with this. And we partnered with Zenith to manufacture and sell these, because just like our Guardian cap, it's designed and does help protect the head a little bit when it comes to those sports.
Doctor, you got any questions for Guardian cap about?
Oh, you got yours on, Mark.
Maybe just one. Is it like a one size fits all, or do they customize them for the different helmets?
So it's one size fits all. The newest model, so I showed you, this is a 2.0. It attaches a little bit differently, but it's got Velcro on the back that allows you to either like tighten it around the different sizes of helmets. The XT model, which is the one that a majority of high school and some colleges and stuff would wear, it's got this elastic strap that allows you to tighten it across. So everything still attaches with the four elastic straps on the front, but then the back is what can be a little bit different. There is two versions. There's an NFL version, we call it the NXT, and then there's the XT. The NXT has a little extra weight, and what happened was initially when the mandate happened with the NFL, and they looked at the XT model, which is what we had at the time. They wanted a Guardian cap that was able to test the same in a lab at a higher impact velocity. So they went in, they had to add a little bit of padding to that, but they said, hey, our NFL offensive defensive linemen don't need to wear the same exact one as what a youth athlete is. So that the additional weight, which is only up to 11 ounces, just over 11 ounces for the NFL model, versus 7 ounces for what I call the like high school youth model. It's not a lot of added weight, but it's some. So,
And Doctor, do you see any high schoolers or is it all pros? Do your practice deal with high school injuries?
So my practice is unique. I actually am not insurance based at all. I am 100% cash.
Okay.
And I specialize in stem cell and PRP injections.
Okay.
So I fix injuries to the point where they don't need surgery. So unfortunately, not many high school level athletes can afford my services, unfortunately. But yes, I do see some if they want to be taken care of.
No, I was just wondering, is there a way that Guardian Cap could help you out? And if you saw any high schoolers and all that stuff, but you're mainly in the pros and you in the big leagues and all that.
Yeah, we take care of everything. We don't have any offices quite near you guys. The closest one's in Knoxville, but we take care of the whole body. So
okay.
Knee, shoulder, toes, spine. Did a big complicated shoulder today, and then the rest of it is complicated IVs. A lot of Lyme disease and heavy metal poisoning and mold and all types of weird, funky stuff. Fascinating clinic we have.
Wow. Okay, now not to be personal, but Doc, my shoulder hurts. And every time, like when I'm working, I'm holding like my drill and all that stuff, I get a pain right here and it goes up to the back of my head. And it's been like that for about 2 years. I've been trying to stretch it out. What you got for me, Doc?
So it's probably a nerve coming out of your neck more so than your shoulder. It does go through your shoulder, but and the first thing we do is find a good PT and have them work you out and have them figure out what it is and see if they can get it to calm down. And if not, then you start to go for imaging and you kind of go from there.
That's called wifey syndrome. That's called wifey syndrome, going upside your head. That's what that's called right there.
Yeah, no, I had the X-rays and they did the X-rays on my shoulder and everything is good. My old doctor kept telling me, "Oh, that ain't nothing, just a piece of fat back there. It ain't nothing." But I'm like, no, I shouldn't be hurting like this.
If you're in pain, there's a reason. They aren't skilled enough to know what it is, so they just kind of pass it off.
Yes,
but
yes.
If you're not happy with the answer, find someone who gives you a better answer.
Oh yeah, he retired. I went to a new doctor and he working on me. He telling me stretches to do and all that stuff. I'm like, what? For 2 years, this guy been saying, "Oh, don't worry about it, and I've been over here panicking, like, man, I don't want to have no stroke.
No, and the worst comes to worst, just go pay for an MRI and go from there.
Yes. Okay.
All right, guys, I got to take off. Good to see you.
I was just about to close it out. I just wanted to say I want to thank Eric from Guardian Cap for coming through. I thank James, Dr. Morris for coming through, giving y'all Deshaun Watson might be gone for the 2025 season. Y'all heard it here. Y'all heard it here. But and my boy D for coming in, for getting Eric. Oh, I thank y'all both. This has been the My Dogs podcast, where my opinions are just my opinions. I thank y'all both.